Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome to you. If you're joining us live on YouTube as we do this, or if you're listening to the usual audio podcast version, you are extremely welcome. You could not be more welcome, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Welcome to Cop on Podcast. This is extremely wonderful that you're with us. And with me right now, I've got three Reds from around the world. We've got Alan, we've got Abdul, we've got Liam, and also joining us from Germany is Lucy, who is a Crystal Palace fan. And Lucy, there's a lot of yin yang in this match. I mean, there was yin yang, there was the great stuff, the bad stuff from both teams. But I imagine that as delighted as us Liverpool fans are that we've got away from that match with 3 whole points, you must be sort of the flip side of that in terms of your disappointment, are you?
Yeah, I mean, it's deja vu to September, no? I feel like the last time we had this conversation, it was very, very similar. Yeah, I think it's gutting not to get a point. Clearly, we didn't deserve to win, but I mean, talk about game of two halves, right? In the first half, I could see it going, yeah, horribly for us. But yeah, I mean, you'd be really, really mean to say that we didn't deserve a point out of the performance in the second half, and obviously the penalty, I think, changed. Who knows if we would have managed to nick one right at the end or not. But yeah, really disappointed after such a strong second half performance to come away with nothing at all.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so sorry about the penalty. It's such a weird feeling because normally, and it sounds like, I believe a Scouse term for this would be cry-arsing. It sounds a bit like cry-arsing, but I honestly think that it's the first time in ages when we've really had the rub of the green from the referees. Because in general, my opinion has not changed. They're just not fit for purpose. I mean, are they? I mean, that was never a penalty in a million years, Lucy, was it?
No, definitely not. I mean, I guess what's galling is that the referee had it right first time, right? I mean, it's somehow the I don't know, the pressure or the anticipation of when it goes to VAR and when they go to the screen, that they don't feel somehow like they can stick to their guns and say, no, I made the right decision, I'm not changing this. But yeah, I mean, you saw how long it took. I mean, how many times they had to rewatch it, but I have no idea how you can give a penalty having seen that. It's just, I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, he'd already lost control of the ball. Like, it was no kind of deliberate contact in preventing any goal from happening. Like, it was just, yeah, ridiculous decision and very frustrating because all of the momentum was on our side up until that moment. And it really, it was one of those really exciting last 5 minutes. Like, it was, for us going for it, seeing if we were going to get the point or not. But it was, yeah, everything was kind of gearing up to a really exciting ending, I think, on our side. And that obviously totally took the wind out of our sails. And yeah, I mean, then it was game over for us. But yeah, dreadful decision. No idea how you can come to that conclusion.
It's crazy, isn't it? I mean, does anyone else want to jump in at this stage? Does anyone disagree? Does anyone think it was a penalty? Is there any? Go on, Abdul.
I don't think it. I mean, it was a harsh penalty to give. I will say that there's one angle where you're looking at it from behind. Jota puts his foot down to obviously spring off that and carry on chasing the ball, and that was the same moment where I think Guaita touched him. So I think if Guaita wasn't there, Jota would have probably got to the ball if it was just a normal ball rolling through and he wasn't trying to get around the keeper. So I think that is possibly why they gave it. But I understand that it's a harsh penalty to give, and definitely in the moment, I think that the referee's decision, if he's stuck with his decision, I would have completely understood it. But, and this is the one big but, I think I saw something from the Tomkin Times, which was basically, this is the second penalty Liverpool have been awarded after VAR review. So, I mean, if it's one of the football gods giving us, our just desserts after a long time of not having that, I'm definitely not going to complain.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, it feels weird to be on the on the sort of, the beneficial end of a dodgy call, because that's a really good stat, Abdul. But I think that, I mean, if you need to look at just one particular angle and then it's only maybe a penalty, then it does tell you a lot about what was going on. But I tell you what, I feel relieved, Alan. I feel relieved. I looked it up. The world record for the longest pee or urination or micturation, if you prefer, is 508 seconds, which is 8.5 minutes of peeing. And I don't reckon whoever that was, this is according to Good Housekeeping websites, Good Housekeeping's website, by the way. So you can look it up on there. And if you don't believe them, who do you believe? I don't get who you are, where you're coming from. But Good Housekeeping said that the longest pee ever was 508 seconds. And I think my sense of relief is bigger than that person's sense of relief, Alan. I thought this was a huge result. Huge.
Yeah, I agree with you. It was, especially after City drawing yesterday. It was a fantastic result, and it was needed. I think relief was the thing in the second half. Whereas in the first half, I wrote a note down here at 23 minutes, just saying we're in control without being frantic and attacking. Like, I don't know what happened 10 minutes later, but 10 minutes later, I was in panic stations. But one thing I would like to add, just especially with Lucy there and as well, I'd like to give credit to the Crystal Palace fans. I think it's the first time we've been at any London club where the fans sang for their own players and not singing abuse and crap. So I think the Palace fans deserve huge credit for that. From minute one to the last minute, they were singing for their own players. Just thought I'd like to put that across there.
Yeah, great point. Absolutely. Yeah, the Palace fans are a credit to themselves, singing about their own team, not singing stupid songs about people dying like other fans have done from other clubs this season. But no, Crystal Palace fans, always brilliant, Lucy. You're always great. But before I bring you in, Liam, I'm just going to ask more questions. Just one more, because Lucy's got to head off fairly soon. So we're going to try and make the most of her while she's here. So, Lucy, I mean, it's easy to forget, given the second half performance, how brilliant Palace were. That the first half, as Alan said, I mean, he's got his on his notes, it's around about the 35th minute. I've got about the 40th minute that Liverpool just started, just being rubbish after, what was actually a superb start to the match. And at that stage, when it was 2-0, and when we were sort of, running riot a little bit. We had 10 attempts to your 0 in the first 30 minutes. Were you thinking like, is there, how are we possibly going to get back in there? I mean, did you notice any kind of tactical change from Patrick Vieira? I mean, how can you sort of, what was the big difference between that opening 30 minutes or so and the rest of it?
Don't know. Great question. But I think, the first half hour was horrible for us. I mean, I was watching with friends and I said it's men against boys. Like it just looked like a different league, didn't it? I mean, the golfing quality was enormous. And then, I mean, I don't know what happened then I guess there was a bit of a sense of time pressure, and in terms of if we nick one back before half time, then all of a sudden it's not going to look like such a mountain to climb. So I thought it was a bit later, but the last kind of 8 minutes, I guess, before half time, I really felt like there was kind of a sense of urgency if we need to get one back before the break. And then obviously after half time, with the change of going to kind of 2 up front to doing the 4-4-2, I thought was obviously worked brilliantly. But also, I mean, you have to wonder in those situations, what Vieira said at half time, because you would have thought that there would have definitely been a potential for them to go in feeling pretty gloomy and feeling like it was going to be our own, particularly thinking about kind of the recent history with Liverpool and how badly we know it can go. So I thought it was really impressive the way they came out after half time. Whatever kind of Vieira did in the dressing room obviously worked wonders, because they came out with such energy and I thought belief. Because like 15 minutes in, we had just 10 men behind the goal, and you just thought, okay, like, we can't play like this for 90 minutes. This is absolutely ridiculous. This is a recipe for disaster. And you thought they're not gonna, without even having attempted really to go forward, we're already 2 behind. But yeah, I mean, clearly they had that sense of belief then for the second half, and I do think the change in formation really helped. But I mean, Vieira's just given them such a boost in believing that they can play against good teams and that they can play decent football. But yeah, it was definitely a game of two halves.
Yeah, great answer. Excellent stuff. Yeah, it was very interesting. That tactical switch really worked a treat. And Liam, it was one of those rare times where Liverpool go into a break and then they're visibly, markedly worse in the second half. Are you going to take anything from that, that lull in the second half, or was it just one of those halves of football that we can just forget about and be very relieved that we can that we have escaped with 3 points? Because there's just one thing, like the ease at which Palace were just looking to lump balls up to their front players, because they were the Palace defenders in possession weren't under much pressure in that second half, and they were able to time and time again just cause loads of problems just with a simple ball. Is there something to worry about there, Liam, or is it just don't worry about it, we'll just move on?
I think it's something we see a lot with the way we play. I think it's something we're happy to, I guess, risk with the quality we've got back there. In particular, you saw Alisson in his man of the match performance today, the amount of times he bailed us out with those long balls. But I think you put it well yourself. I thought, rather than the high line itself being a particular problem, I mean, we've been playing with that for nearly 3.5 years now, and okay, it's been caught us out a few times, but look at the success we've had with it. So I wouldn't say I'm particularly worried with it, but I think the fact, this week's been quite a big week. The first, probably, against Brentford, we were a bit gritty in terms of the performance. It wasn't fully up to scratch, but we managed to win resoundingly. And then obviously a cup semi-final midweek away in London, Jota bailing us out again. The performance was much better. And then I think this week, because we've had such 3 important games without the players at AFCON. Again, the fact we've got into a cup final, and again, Palace, as we've seen, can cause many teams, big teams, problems. It kind of had a causal effect in the end, and I think we discussed, I guess, tiredness would probably be the thing I put it down to more than anything. So I think this break will give us, it's come at the right time for us, really, and I think going forwards, the high line wouldn't be something I'm too worried about, especially when we've got Alisson back there. I think Matip looked a little jaded, Van Dijk maybe at times as well, and I think this week, which has been a big week, a very good week for us, has probably taken its toll towards the end of the half. But there was a bit of complacency in there, and I think that's something we can improve on, but you can't play well for 90 minutes all the time.
Very interesting stuff. Abdul, Liam mentioned Alisson Becker there, his man of the match, never a more obvious man of the match. As I like to remind everybody, his middle name is Ramesses, and there is something about that is very epic. And I was trying to think of different names for him. Actually, Stephanie, my good lady, came up with Becker the Wrecker. And Abdul, I don't know how lucky you feel having such a great goalkeeper between the sticks for us, because he wrecks loads of things. He wrecked, unfortunately, poor Lucy's feelings today, and lots of Palace fans, but he wrecks all the stats, all the XG stuff, because Palace end up with 1.69 XG to Liverpool's 1.27. So Palace could have easily won that match had it been any lesser man than Alisson Ramesses Becker. What did you make of him, Abdul?
Yeah, once again, I mean, it's just so nice to be able to just have such reliability in between the sticks for Liverpool. I always say this to people, but the day that we signed him was the day that I knew that Liverpool could win titles and could win trophies. I mean, even though we already had Virgil, we had Salah scoring loads, I think it wasn't until we signed Alisson that I felt like we were really a big boy club finally, because there was a lot of talk about Karius, keeping him on, and we trusted him, all that kind of stuff. And then out of nowhere, we just slapped 69 or whatever million on the table to Roma, and we had him over the line. And I remember hugging the person who was next to me that day. The moment we did it, the moment I learned, I was like, yeah, like we're finally here. But yeah, he's just a phenomenal goalkeeper. Like,
sorry. When you say you hugged the person next to you, was that just a random stranger? Were you on a park bench?
It was my housemate at the time, so yeah.
Oh, okay, right.
It wasn't quite so spontaneous, but I feel like I probably would have, even if I was out in public, I would have probably given it the knee slide. But yeah, just an incredible goalkeeper. He does have his mistakes in him from time to time. Does have a little brain fart, but you can definitely just gloss over that because he is just an absolutely phenomenal goalkeeper. And like Klopp says, I think the #1 goalkeeper on the planet right now. Even though Edison is obviously really, really good with his feet in a way that Alisson definitely isn't. I think just the shot stopping and the reliability and making just every save seem simple. It's just, you can't put money on that. So yeah, just love the fact that we have him, and hopefully he's like Thiago Silva and he can play until he's like 39 or whatever.
At least. Absolutely. Brilliant answer. Playing in front of him is Virgil van Dijk, and Virgil got the first goal today, Alan. It was a bullet header after, unfortunately, two Palace players collided in the box. They ran into each other, Schlupp and Anderson, and it allowed Virgil, a sniff of goal, but he absolutely snorted it, didn't he, into the top corner. Virgil's looking really, really good. I thought he was great against Arsenal the other day as well. He's top of our charts on a number of metrics, including the most amount of successful passes and the most amount of blocks, etc., etc. There are about 6 or 7 of them that he's top at, and it was another brilliant performance, Alan, that was possibly easy to overlook because he does everything with such languid grace. But what do you make of Virgil?
Oh yeah, he had a great game again, and it's so good to see him getting that bullet of a header that you'd expect from him. I think he is back to his best at the moment. The last few games, you can see he's getting more involved going forward, more confident looking. Although to be fair, the Palace did catch him out today twice with the offside, one for the goal as well. He was probably caught a bit there, but like you say, 90 minutes play, every player has a mistake or two. But it's like Abdul said there as well. When you have Virgil and Ali, two of them linked together so well. Two of them have confidence in each other. And I think any team in the Premiership or the world would like Virgil and Ali in their team. I think the other good thing as well about Alisson is, I think that's the first time I've ever given a goalkeeper 10 out of 10 in a match. He did to Crystal Palace today what so many goalkeepers do to us, and has had the game of their life. And it's just amazing to have him and Virgil and Matip. I think some people were picking on Matip a little bit today, saying he had a few mistakes, which he did. He had a bad pass or two. But I think we're very lucky to have both of them and the link so well together. It's just amazing to have them, and we're long may we have them all.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, Joel Matip's pass completion. I'll get it up for the whole match and on my screen here. Hang on, but yeah, I remember at half time it was only 88%, and he was one of the people who played a horrible pass to allow Palace their first chance that was saved by Becker. But that first chance fell to Elise Lucy, and he was one of the great. Hopes, the real positives from today from a Palace point of view. There were several. I mean, of course, Connor Gallagher. I mean, his industry is exceptional. I thought Jeffrey Schlupp played well, but Elise especially, and Mateta, is that his name, up front. There were lots of positives. What were the positives for you?
Yeah, I think Elise is brilliant. It'll be really key for us to try to hold on to him. I thought Gallagher was actually a bit quiet today by his standards. I mean, he's still obviously always, one of our best players on the pitch, but yeah, I think he's still kind of getting back to match fitness. I mean, he was out for a little while with his, I don't know if it was COVID or another illness, I can't remember. But no, I think also just to actually reassure ourselves that we do have some options, like it's always actually quite positive to have a game where Wilf isn't there, but we're still creating chances and we're still looking threatening. I think bringing on Eze was brilliant. I did think Mateta was great. I mean, we actually had a lot of chances, I think, from kind of Liverpool errors in the first half. And if we'd have taken those chances, and I think it's exactly what I said last time when we had for us, the away game back in September. But if we'd have, it's what really makes the difference, right? I mean, Liverpool took the chances that they had, and we didn't. I mean, there was a moment where we could have been 3-2 up. I'm not saying that would have, reflected fairly the quality or what have you of the play, but there were a lot of chances that we missed. I mean, Gallagher missed one. Elise, obviously, that would have been a great goal if it had gone in. Edouard with the back heel. I mean, we had plenty of opportunities to score. So in a way, I think that is very encouraging. And yeah, just nice to see that we have good attacking options that aren't Sahar, because for the last couple of seasons, like, it's not been so obvious where goals would come from if they weren't going to come from him. But I think, more generally, the style of play that Vieira has brought in, it's obviously just much more pleasant to enjoy. It's more pleasant to watch Palace now. There are still a lot of hairy moments, and I think I still have a bit of a concern that Vieira's style of play is for very high quality players. And I think sometimes, particularly when you see, clearly they've been given such a strong message about not lumping the long balls and having to play it out from the back. And, and sometimes that gets very hairy for us. And, then you get horrible mistakes like we had on New Year's Day against West Ham, and conceding terrible goals when the keeper's not willing to just clear it, basically. But in general, I think, the new attacking style and prettier football is, it's definitely nothing you can complain about. And if they keep on playing at that higher quality, we will start to win more games. I mean, at the moment, we're drawing everything, and we're not taking the chances we need to, but it's certainly moving in the right direction for us. So I thought there were tons of positives, really.
Yeah, great answer. In terms of your creativity, the amount of shots you had, I mean, going through the team from the back to the front, Joachim Andersen managed one shot, your central defender. Jeffrey Schlupp managed one. Connor Gallagher managed one. That was the header that was unfortunately wide, from a Palace point of view. Elise managed two. Mateta managed one. Edouard managed two, of which he scored one, of course, that tap in. After very good play, very clinical play. And so, yeah, chances from all over the pitch. So, yeah, you're right. There were tons of positives from Palace's point of view. In terms of the positives for Liverpool, Liam, I thought with Vieira's tactics, it did give Andy Robertson and Trent quite a lot of opportunity to have the ball. I mean, Robertson ended up with 2 assists, of course. He was really good. Virgil, I mentioned, was very good. Alisson was superb. Well, when I say very good, at times, everyone was poor at times as well, which is kind of funny. But before the match, I was thinking about Curtis Jones versus Gallagher. I thought Curtis was really good. I can go through all the team, but who do you think was good, Liam?
I think we've touched on Alisson, so I won't go on him again. I think, in particular, Jota probably didn't have the game, particularly after his game at Arsenal, that we know he can have. But I think in terms of working hard, the front three were all very, I guess, proactive in the press, particularly the first 35 minutes before things started to slow down and the press basically capitulated. But I think that's when things started to kick in a little bit and we had to, I guess, retreat in terms of what sort of energy we're putting in. But I think in particular, I know the penalty is probably a bit sceptical, but again, winning the penalty, he just seems to influence the game in a way that we've not had. Obviously, Salah and Mane are excellent goal scorers, dribbling and things, but when we've not got those two on the pitch, to have someone like Jota who can still influence things without scoring. Particular, I mean, he's not known for his passing, but I think in transition, and I guess you said the space from Vieira's style of play, I think he had lots of space to run in. At Ward in particular at times as well. So I'd say Jota was really good. Jones in particular as well. I think since Thiago hasn't been in that left side of midfield, he's kind of made that position his own and almost made himself undroppable. I think particular in pressing as well and moving out of tight spaces with nice turns, and I guess close control generally. He's good at that in a way. Wijnaldum was sort of as well, that the fact he could get himself out of whether it be 2 men or 3 men pressing him, he can move around and start a counter attack or drive play forwards, and he's very good at driving into space as well. So I think in general, as you mentioned, performances were ebbed and flowed throughout the 90 minutes. Palace will probably feel they were a bit hard done by throughout the game. And I said a point would have replicated, considering how poor we were for probably 60 minutes, maybe not 60 minutes, 55 minutes of the match. But I think, as Lucy said, when quality comes down to it and taking chances, we probably came out on that front. And I think the fact that even our goal scorers weren't the ones scoring the goals today shows the quality we've got throughout the team. And we need wins like this if we're going to challenge City for the title. It was probably a lucky win today, but an ugly one, another gritty one. But we'll take it, come after the break and go again in the FA Cup.
It's going to be interesting after the break, Abdul, with when we get all these players back. We're going to have probably Thiago, Harvey Elliott back in midfield. So we're going to have pretty much of course, Naby Keita. The final of the AFCON, by the way, I looked it up before, is on February the 6th, which is the same day as our match against Cardiff. So our next league match is against Leicester after that. So for the next league matches, focusing on the Premier League, we could have a pretty much full squad. I think Divock is back. So if we have a full squad, what would you do with the midfield? Today, Curtis Jones, he had 90% passing accuracy, which is crazy, including 2 key passes. He didn't manage a shot. And Jordan Henderson managed 4 shots, but his passing accuracy was 10% less than Curtis Jones on 80%. With all these midfielders coming back, who would you play in midfield from if we were all fully fit, Abdul?
So yeah, this is it. This is what we've been building up all of the season to. And firstly, I must stress, I know there's been a lot of negativity about Liverpool's chances in the title, and as a result, a lot of negativity about our season so far. But first things first, I have to say, I think Liverpool are having an incredible season by just all kind of metrics. I mean, yeah, we've dropped points in some matches, which has been frustrating, and that's completely understandable. But we have won 6 out of 6 matches in the Champions League. We're in the final of a Carabao Cup. We're in the next stage of the FA Cup, and we are theoretically within 6 points of winning the title. 6 points off going first, anyways, from City if we win our match against Leeds. And we also, crucially, do not have any long-term injuries at the moment. So once Harvey Elliott's back, we should be fine. I mean, Divock Origi, nobody knows what's wrong with him. But basically, once we come back on the 6th of February from this 2-week break, which we've needed, because I think, like Alan said, or Liam, we've had a lot of games in the last few weeks, and we definitely need a rest right now. But once we come back from that, we have a fully fit squad, and we're going to need it, because I think we have a match every 3 days. We have like 5 matches in 15 days once we come back. So we're going to need the entire squad. And I'm actually very unsure what our main team is actually going to be. I think we're going to see our strongest possible lineup against Inter Milan on the 16th of February. And then again, we're going to see our strongest possible team on the final, apart from Kelleher in goal for Alisson, against Chelsea on the 27th. But in between that, I really could not tell you which kind of variation of midfield we're going to go for. I think in the FA Cup match, there's every chance that Klopp could go with a really strong team, because we will have had 2 weeks of rest at that point. But you'd also like to see him give Harvey Elliott his first game back, you'd like to see him give Thiago a game back so that he starts getting some rhythm. The AFCON boys are back as well. Naby Keita's been in great form. Curtis Jones is in great form right now. Oxlade-Chamberlain is scoring goals. He's in great form right now. I mean, it really is, for the first time in Klopp's possibly the first 5 years that he's been here, he actually really has decisions to make, and the team doesn't pick itself at all. So I'm really excited to just see what we actually do. And yeah, best of luck to Klopp, because it's a very hard decision.
He's going to have to work it out. Excellent. Lucy, before you chip off, because I know you've got people coming over for dinner, so bon appetit with all that. Just one final question for you. And it's about the title race, because we on Cop On Podcast, no one's given up. Well, maybe some people are giving up, but not many people are giving up on the title race. We're only 22 games into a 38-game season. We're, as it stands, 9 points behind City, but we have a game in hand, so it could be 6 points. And then if we beat them, just 3 points. God, good Lord. Are we deluding ourselves, Lucy? Because Pep and his oil slickers, they've got strength in depth that you wouldn't believe. He spent 500 million net spend in the last 5 years. Did Liverpool have a hope in hell from the outside? What do you think, Lucy?
I wouldn't put money on you. Sorry.
Okay, it's fair enough. So you would think it's a sort of a 1% chance for Liverpool, or a 10% chance? Or...
I mean, it's interesting when you say, okay, with the game in hand, and what is it you said? It's Leeds coming up.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you then, like, it can go then quite quickly, and I guess it can get quite exciting. But I also, I think City then would somehow have the oil in the tank to be able to kind of accelerate again and to move forwards. I mean, I don't know honestly what your run up of games looks like and theirs, and particularly how the last few games of the season look for you both. But I just think, the way things have been this season, you wouldn't bet against Man City. I mean, I think it will take Liverpool's obviously. I also agree with Abdul. I mean, you're having a great season, but it would take an exceptional team at the moment, I think, to beat City this season. I hope you do it. I prefer Liverpool.
Well, that's very kind of you. So, I mean, but you're thinking sort of very low percent, sort of 5% chance. Then is that, or even less?
There's always a chance, not more than 10% for sure. I would be really, I would be really confident. I think that City are gonna take it. But I mean, like you say, it's early days. It's a marathon, not a sprint, right? We're not there yet.
Well, okay. I mean, I'm tempted to stay in that case. I hope you burnt your bratwurst or whatever you're having for dinner. But no, it's been an absolute pleasure that you've joined us. Thank you so much, Lucy. And
thanks
all the
for
best.
having me on. All right.
Speak to you soon. Bye. Okay, and so listeners, stay with us. We're left with the Liverpool lads. You heard it from Lucy. She's not from the outside, the objective point of view, Alan, that the chances are very slim for Liverpool taking this Premier League. But I don't know, Alan. It's looking to me like City, because their lead was so huge, they might bottle it, or at least the chances of them bottling it are higher, because psychologically, to be 13 points ahead and then maybe in a few weeks they could be just 6 or even less points ahead, then they might start to really panic. I don't know. Am I just talking myself into it, Alan?
No, I don't think you are on. I think, well, fair play to Lucy. She's unbiased like we are, and she said it very well there. But I think 2-3 podcasts back, I thought we were out of it, and you were putting me straight, and I can see you're right. We're still in it. There's always a chance. I thought at the beginning of the season, City would have a slow start like they normally did, and I thought we'd get a few points ahead of them and stay ahead of them. But now just seeing them yesterday and just put new hope in me, actually. Like Lucy said, they're well oiled. They're going to be hard to beat. We've given them a bit of a head start, but no, we're still in it and positive, especially over this period. Like when we haven't had the three guys like Naby and Mo and Sadia, that we've come through it. Like the game today, we didn't play. We played great for 30 minutes, held on, and got a good win. They're the games that win you titles or get you challenging for titles. So I'm quite positive now, and I'm quite positive with the lads coming back that we're going to get a fresh impetus and go again and just try and win every game. Because our midfield in particular are very tired. I think one of the lads said it there earlier on. I think it was Liam that we looked tired today, and we did. But like we haven't had Thiago or Naby or even Harvey to come in and give lads a rest. So I think going forward now we're positive. We just keep fighting, fight for every point, and hang in there. And City could lose a few games, and maybe if the further they go in the Champions League, the less interest they seem to have in the Premiership sometimes as well. So yeah, you have me back on track, Owen. I'm back.
Nice to have you with us. Very good. Liam, when the next matches, Leicester City at home. February's looking pretty good for us. We got Cardiff City at home, then Leicester City at home on February the 10th. Then Burnley away, Inter away, Norwich at home, Chelsea in the final at Wembley of the Carabao Cup. And then we move into March, and March looks a bit more difficult with West Ham at home, just in the Premier League, West Ham at home, Brighton away, Man United at home, Watford at home. And then April, Man City away, Villa away, Everton at home, Newcastle away, Tottenham at home, Southampton away, Wolves at home. And that's all of our remaining fixtures in the Premier League. Liam, is it all over? How much hope do you have?
I'd say I'm a little bit less optimistic than you two are, considering just how good City have been. I think we're forgetting it's a 13-game winning run they've just ended with that draw at Southampton. Obviously, we've got the ability to replicate that, but I do think that's what it's going to take to be able to get near them in a sense. Obviously, they're playing without a striker, and they're still by far and away one of the best teams in Europe and one of the best teams that we've had in the Premier League. So I think the quality that City have got, they do deserve some credit. As you've just said, they've never really seemed to be in this situation where they've dropped points and we've capitalised on it this season anyway. It seems, for example, I think the Brentford game in particular and the Brighton game are two opportunities we've had to close gaps on, whether it be Chelsea or City. And we've drawn both those games. So I think in particular, the fact we've been able to close the gap, we've got that advantage of essentially the game in hand against Leeds. We still don't know when that's going to be played. So that's going to be a big game to be rescheduled. And the fact we've got to go to the Etihad, which I'm confident going there that we can get a win. It seems like we've not won at the Etihad for quite a while, actually. But if we can win those two games, I'll be fully on board. But I just think the quality that City have got, De Bruyne is coming back into form, Bernardo Silva looks great. It's going to be a big ask for us. For me personally, I think we will have success this year. Obviously, we're already in a cup final, but we look good in Europe in particular. We seem to be up for the big games, particularly one-off games, and I think that could stand us in good stead, particularly without the away goals rule. In the Champions League, I think the home advantage and the away advantage kind of teeters a little bit, which may decrease as chances at Anfield, but I think in the away legs that will be beneficial to us and the people that aren't coming to Anfield. So I fancy us in the cups this year more than league, I must say, but we're not out of it by any means. There's still a chance. 10% is too harsh, I would say, but I wouldn't say I'm as optimistic as you guys. I do think City deserve a lot of credit. They look really good this year.
Great answer. And they do. Hats off to them. And Lucy mentioned oil in the machine. They've got plenty of it. But it might start, they might blow a gasket at some point. That's the hope that I'm clinging on to. Their fixtures after the international break, they've got Fulham at home in the FA Cup. And then just in the league, because they're playing Sporting in the Champions League, forget that one. But just in the league, they've got Brentford at home, Norwich away, and then it gets interesting. They've got Tottenham at home, Everton away, Man United at home, Crystal Palace away, Brighton at home, Burnley away, Liverpool at home, Wolves away, Watford at home, Leeds away, Newcastle at home, and then at the end of the season, they've got West Ham away, followed by Steven Gerrard's Aston Villa, Phil Coutinho et al. On May the 22nd as it stands now. Abdul, have you given up?
Yeah, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And you know what? Pep, in his interview before the match yesterday, I don't even know who they played. Who did they play?
Southampton yesterday.
That's the one. Yeah, so he said we will definitely drop points. It's just about how we react to it. And yeah, I mean, Liam just said, City have just come off a 13-game winning streak, and I think they haven't lost or dropped points in the game since the end of October. So the way that I view it is there was absolutely no chance that City were just going to win every single game of the season remaining after going on a 12-game winning streak. So they were at the very peak of their form, and the only way I think was it's down for them basically. And Liverpool on the other side, I think that we have a lot of improvement to come in our team, especially when the African Cup of Nations boys come back into the team, and especially with we don't have any major injuries now. We have Harvey Elliott coming back, Thiago coming back. Fingers crossed, touch wood, he's going to stay injury-free for the rest of the season. And also looking at City's fixtures now, you highlighted, they've got that really tough spell coming up before they play Liverpool, where they play Spurs, Antonio Conte. Today, I think it's the first time he's lost a game in the Premier League since he's come back. So I think that's going to be a really tough one for them. Everton, they don't want to be dragged down into a relegation battle, and that's away from home. I don't know. They could drop points there. United, Derby, they could drop points there. Crystal Palace away, difficult one for us today. I could see them dropping points there. Brighton have had a good season. I could see them dropping points there. Burnley, relegation battle they don't want to be in. They could drop points there. Wolves, really good team this season. They could drop points there. But I think the key one for me is right at the end of the season, they play Watford, then Leeds, then Newcastle. Those three teams all in a relegation battle. I think that adds a different dynamic to the matches. I think those teams are going to play, out of their skins to try and not lose. And that, I think, could make the big difference. And then on the final day, we're all praying for it. A Felipe Coutinho screamer from 25 yards to win it for Villa. That would just be the absolute dream. So,
with Alisson Becker getting another header to hand us the league title, is that it? Is that the colour of your dreams?
It's literally got to be written up there in the stars. I mean, if that happened, top off for like the next 5 months, honestly.
It'll never go back on.
Literally. So I think there's a lot of chances for City to slip up, and I think they will. But yeah, I think the big question is, do Liverpool have it in them to go pretty much unbeaten for the rest of the season? And I don't know if they do, but I do think by the time that we play City on the 9th of April, I think the gap will be at maximum 4 points. So that could be a very, very, very tight affair.
I love it. I love the answers. I love all the positives, all the positivity, all of the optimism. Alan, a real positive is having Harvey Elliott back. Jurgen Klopp said in an interview that I know you saw too, he just seemed really excited having Harvey back, and he had to sort of rein himself in. Jurgen did, because he thought that immediately Harvey Elliott looked ready to come back into the action. So him coming back with, as Abdul said, all the African Cup of Nations guys, all three wonderful players, then, there's so much positivity around the club, Alan. And what do you think of Harvey Elliott coming back? I mean, would he replace Curtis Jones in this lineup, for example? Would he replace Henderson?
I think Harvey could replace anybody in that centre midfield, apart from Fabinho and Thiago, maybe. I do think he'll replace Henderson on the right hand side there. I think Henderson is very tired. I think he's not having his best season, but Harvey is such an exciting player. Like, even at the start of this season when he started playing them games, like none of us were really expecting him to start. And then when he got injured, it was devastating for a player that's basically in his first full season. So I'm really excited about him coming back. Really excited to see the excitement in Klopp's face when he talks about him, and you seen him coming onto the training ground and Jurgen was hugging him, and it wasn't just a hug, it was a hug, you know what I mean? It was a wow, I'm so happy you're here. And you could feel the sense Harvey must get from that as well, like and all the players. So I'm really excited about Harvey coming back. And like you said, that interview, Jurgen said they have to hold themselves back, not to put him in so quick. He said it's like a player that's never been away from training. He just start training, and he just said it's like a player that's been training every week, not been injured. So to see that excitement in Jurgen is also a great positive for us. So what is it like for the rest of the team and the lads to see that? I think going forward, like I think Henderson is probably the one that might lose his place for him. But I think that's good because I think Henderson is the player that you can bring in for the last 20 minutes of games when he's fresh and control games and win games when we're up against it and stuff. So Jones again is playing well. So if you have a young midfield like Jones one side, Harvey the other, and then you have Naby and the Ox to come in, which both players I like to see coming in near the end of a game, especially the Ox. I think when teams are tired near the last 20 minutes, the Ox plays very well and gets running at teams. So I'm really positive and really delighted to see Harvey back. Just fingers crossed he stays injury free now for 10 years.
Yeah, at least. Yeah, great answer. Great answer. Yeah, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Liam. What do you think of that assessment from Alan? You know, with our midfield, and what do you think about Oxlade-Chamberlain?
I think I'd agree, particularly firstly on Elliott. It's massive to have him back. I think we saw the impact he had in those early games, starting at Chelsea. Obviously, the injury was rather unfortunate. But if he can replicate that form again, I think you'll struggle to displace him in that midfield because I think he gives our midfield something that nobody else gives it in terms of the positions he can get into going forward. He's got a vision, he's dynamic, he's quick. He'd be a vital addition to that midfield if we are going to go forwards and win the Premier League title. I think Ox is a funny one, really. I don't particularly like him in wide areas, although, you know, I'm kind of contradicting myself while he's scoring goals from those areas. So you kind of contradicting yourself. But I think he's much better as a midfielder where he can see the ball a bit more. You know, he's got a bit more time. I think when he's one-on-one with players, I think his yard of pace has fallen a little bit in terms of whether that's concurrent knee injuries or something like that. I don't think he's got that dynamic edge that he used to have. You know, the pace, for example, when he used to play wing back under Wenger at Arsenal was always one of his big assets for playing those wide areas, which why I think the shift into midfield when he came to Liverpool, which is the position he played at Southampton when he was coming through the academy, kind of helped him and we saw his best football there. But I just find with the 18 months left on his contract, the 18 months left on Keita's contract, this run at the moment is kind of big for him to stake his claim. You would say he is doing it with the 2 goals he scored, but I think he's doing it in the wrong position because I think we all know we're going to strengthen, maybe not on the right-hand side, but whether it be a number 9, just in general, that forward area, we're going to be adding someone there in the summer, most likely, if you're reading sources from The Athletic and things like that. So I don't think he's going to have a future there. And I think in midfield with Thiago, with Fabinho, who's again was magnificent today, he's undroppable essentially. He is the glue that holds our midfield together. Henderson, for me, his form's been a bit up and down at the moment, as Alan said, but I think the fact he's the captain kind of makes him higher up the pecking order as well compared to somebody like Ox. I think Klopp said himself, Naby on his day is one of the best midfielders in the world, and I'd agree with that. I think when you've got somebody of that quality who can change a game around, it's difficult to really say you shouldn't keep him for those qualities. I would like to see him get a run in the side, essentially, with Henderson's. For me personally, I think Henderson has been showing poor form considering his high standards. So I think coming back after the break, it would be nice to see Naby get a run in that position. For me, with Ox, I wouldn't be shocked if he was sold in the summer. I just think as backup for wide areas, I think we can definitely strengthen. This form is great for him, whether it gets him a big move or, he may prove me wrong and get in the squad. But if you're asking for my, I guess, prediction for where Ox is in maybe 6 to 12 months' time, I wouldn't be shocked if he's somewhere else in the Premier League or another team in Europe takes a punt on him.
Yeah, I mean, he did brilliantly well for the goal today. He also had a couple of chances before that, but I would also not be surprised to see him playing his trade elsewhere. Thanks for your thoughts. Really interesting answer. Lots of things to think about, but it makes you think about transfers that you mentioned. And there was one player we've been linked with, and I'm very happy we've been linked with him. His name's Fabio Carvalho. I'm sure a lot of you are already aware of that. From Fulham in the Championship, where he is, to use perhaps a tired cliche, ripping it up in the Champions League. I don't know what it is, but it seems to be some kind of tissue paper, because it seems ridiculously easy for him to rip it up in the Championship. We were linked with him in the press exactly one day after I, with my sort of, geeky, personal look at stats and things, identified him as someone who just leapt off all of the stat sheets that I was looking at as an incredible talent. And I was shocked and delighted that the very next day, various sources through the media were linking us with the young Carvalho from Fulham. Abdul, would you be excited to bring him in now, or do we have enough cover in midfield and wide areas till the end of the season? Do you think, bringing in a young, brilliant midfielder stroke attacker would really, really, really help us going forward, or could it just upset the apple cart?
I mean, I think there's undoubtedly he's a great player. I don't think there's any point bringing him in right now. I think, yes, sign him. If he's available for 5 million, then absolutely sign him and then just loan him straight back out to Fulham. They're having a great season. Marco Silva's doing great things there. I think they're probably likely to come up, aren't they? I would sign him and then send him back out on loan. I haven't actually watched him that much. I know that he scored on his debut in the Premier League last season. Was it on his debut? I'm not sure, but he scored definitely in the Premier League last season. Very highly rated. And just a little bit of a little snippet of information. Our new sporting director, Julian Ward, apparently he's actually worked for the Portuguese FA before. And I mean, I know that in his previous role as like loan pathways guy, he's obviously sent out Marco Grujic to Porto. And I think the way that Klopp talks about Portuguese coaching and Portuguese talent, and Vitor Matos joining us, it seems like Liverpool have a very Portuguese kind of thread running through us at the moment. So I can understand why we're after this Carvalho kid, because he's proving it in the Championship. And I think especially with the way that we've seen like Jadon Sancho come from the Bundesliga and not really settle in that well, I think there is a lot of value in people who've proved themselves in the British leagues compared to maybe going out abroad. And that's not to diss any of the foreign leagues, but I think there is something a bit special about somebody proving themselves in the Championship, like Harvey Elliott, for example. So if he does come to Liverpool, I hope to see him in the preseason. I think he will do pretty well. And excited to see it.
Yeah, great answer. I mean, he's 19 now, Fabio Carvalho. He broke in, as you said, he scored 1 goal in the Premier League. He only made 3 starts, with 1 substitute appearance for Fulham last season. But this season, he started 14 matches. He's got 8 goals and 2 assists in the Championship. And if you look at highlights reels, I know you can't tell much from highlights reels, but the way that the Championship defenders are, you can tell they're always just trying to basically chop him in half as they always do in the Championship against technically gifted players. They're basically trying to assault him. But he manages to wriggle away and stay on his feet. He's got balance, he's got strength, he's got guile. He's just a good footballer. He's really good passing, really good vision, and an eye for goal. Alan, there's the FSG news that apparently FSG have moved up quite significantly in terms of the richest sports owners in the world. They have something like $7 billion worth of assets or something like that. Do you want a massive investment from them, Alan, this summer, or perhaps someone in January? Or is it more important, like I think it's just more important, who the players are rather than how much they cost?
Yeah, I'd agree with Jed. I don't want us to turn into one of these clubs that just goes out and spends 100 million on a player for his namesake or whatever. But I would like to see a steady stream of investment, not, to be able to buy one or two players every season, have the money there available. I have been frustrated a bit with FSG, over Salah's contract and stuff as well. But that's what I would like to see. I'd like to see them given a steady income that Klopp knows every year he has 60, 70 million, whichever it is, to spend, and he can pick and choose players. But when we need a certain player, like we did for Van Dijk and for Alisson, to know he has the money there if he wants to do it for that special type of player. But I don't want to turn into a Man United buying £100 million player like Sancho and him not being up to the scratch, which I don't think we are like that. We're very good at scouting players that suit our system. But I would like to see more constant investment every year.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, more constant investment. It's been a bit quiet in the past couple of years, but we have brought in Diogo Jota, Thiago Alcantara, and Ibu. I had a look back earlier, Liam. I don't know if you saw. I posted it on our WhatsApp group. I posted all of the transfers since Jurgen Klopp's first full summer, and it is amazing the amount of hits compared to misses. I mean, a lot of other clubs, they get 50-50 hits and misses. Man United get sort of, maybe 10% of their transfers turn out to be any good. But I don't know. What do you think about the way forwards? I mean, would you, bring in Bellingham for 100 million, Fabio Carvalho for 10 million, or even a free at the end of the season if his contract is up? I don't know, Liam. Talk to me about transfers. What do you want to see?
I think what Alan said is along the right lines, really. I don't think we're asking for, oil-rich owners to come in and spend 200 million like Chelsea did. If you look at the signings they made when they signed Havertz, Werner, Ziyech, you can't really say pinpoint one of them that's been probably more than C plus B. I know Havertz scored the winner in the Champions League final, but in retrospect, none of them have really had the impact they would have expected. They're still young, particularly Havertz, so they can improve. But I think our transfer policy where, everything's a bit more methodical and calculated, and they'll look at within the squad who's particularly on the way out. So, for example, if you're looking at someone like James Milner, who can particularly cover, we'd say, probably 4 positions in both full-backs, the 6 and the 8. So you'd be looking for someone in that midfield role who can maybe probably not shift out at left back, but play 6 and 8. So I think having the money there to be able to replenish the squad, I think the squad is getting a bit on the older side in terms of youth, younger players below 25. There's Trent and Jones that are probably in contention to start week in, week out. Obviously, Elliott's back, so he's in that regard as well, and Jota's in that bracket as well. But other than that, everyone else is either in the prime or getting towards the plus side of 30. And 30 is not a bad thing, particularly when we're seeing Ronaldo come to the Premier League and score 14 goals in all competitions for Man United. We're hardly not going to have that from Salah if we keep him up. I think his fitness and everything puts you on the right side that he'll be able to do that. So I'm not saying we need a mass exodus of getting rid of players that are going over the age of 30, but just adding players in here and there, another forward of a similar profile to Jota, someone like an Ismail Assar, Jonathan David. Amin Gouiri is someone I like. I think he'd be great in terms of versatility, being able to play through the middle and on the left. And then in midfield, I think Bellingham's probably a bit of a pipe dream, really, with how much he's going to cost. I just don't see us breaking the bank for £100 million and someone like Jude Bellingham. I love Bellingham. I think in particular, we saw his performances at the Euros, at 17, being one of England's youngest ever players to play at a tournament, the way he's played in the Champions League for Dortmund. He shows he's got the level to play in the Premier League, but I don't expect that we'll be breaking our transfer policy, really. I think, as Alan said, with Alisson and Van Dijk and Abdul as well, when those two players were acquired, we knew who we wanted straight away, and we knew we had the money available, and they were necessary signings to go out there and break transfer records. I think to break a British transfer record for Jude Bellingham isn't a necessity at this moment in time. I think you can spend that a bit wiser, replace Wijnaldum, because I don't think we really have, and then, look at somebody a bit more, not a utility player, but someone of a younger profile that can step into that Milner role and limited minutes, but could maybe shift in at 6. Who knows? Maybe has experience at wing back or full back as well. I just think spending £100 million on Jude Bellingham, as much as I would love it, and if we could do that, that'd be fantastic. I just don't think it makes sense from the club's perspective, even if they have had that Redbird capital investment coming. So I'd say a midfielder and a forward are the priority in the summer, but I wouldn't expect us to hit probably, I'd say 40 million maximum for each. And, with sales, I think Ox will leave. Wouldn't be surprised if Origi leaves. So maybe if you do look for younger players like Carvalho to step into those positions, I think Carvalho on a free transfer would be excellent. I don't think there's any need to buy him now for 5. Although with my head, I just want to see a transfer. So if we do it, it's something to get excited about. But I think looking at those younger profile sort of players like Carvalho, maybe a young midfielder coming from France, or there's absolutely loads in France of young midfielders coming through that we could target, or in the Championship as well. I think they're the best areas to look. But I think probably 80 million on 2 players, a midfielder and a striker, would be great in the summer.
Splendid answer. Well, we certainly got a lot to think about, a lot to dream about. I'll leave you with a couple of quotes. There was a nice poem by Mary Oliver. It's all about the maybes, and I haven't given up on this league, as you guys haven't either, to stronger or lesser degrees anyway. But there's a poem called "The World I Live In" by Mary Oliver, and it says, "I have refused to live locked in the orderly house of reasons and proofs. The world I live in and believe in is wider than that. And anyway, what's wrong with maybe?" And maybe Liverpool will win the league. Thomas Edison famously said, our greatest weakness lies in giving up. The most certain way to succeed is always to try just one more time. It's going to take a little while to try one more time because it's after the international break, the pesky international break. But during that international break, Abdul, what can people get from Watch LFC?
Unparalleled positivity. We're just, it's going to be 2 weeks. It's going to be lovely and refreshing for the players and for the fans as well. Go out with the wife, go on a date, enjoy yourself, and then come back, strap yourself in, because the end of the season is going to be a really, really interesting ride, I think.
Excellent stuff. And hi to Rory, who's just joined us, saying evening, just subscribe to the channel. So thanks very much, Rory. If you're listening to this, please do subscribe to us on YouTube. Rory's delighted, speaking of unbridled, unparalleled positivity, very positive, said big 3 points away from home with key AFCON players missing. Absolutely. Liam, tell everybody about your writing. What's going on with the French football?
In particular, I'm currently writing a piece on why the Reds should be shopping in Ligue 1. Hopefully a series on that should be out on the Copite. So something Excellent. To look forward to there. In particular, I write for Get French Football News as well. Get French Football News 100's just come out. There's lots of young talents in there. In particular, I wrote a piece on Kamaldeen Suleimana, who's a winger that plays for Rennes.
I've seen him. He's amazing. Yes,
yeah,
man. Great
honestly,
choice.
Just the way he dribbles with the ball. He can beat 3 players in a blink and then score a wonder goal. So he was a pleasure to write about. Other ones in particular, Randall Colomwani has been linked with Liverpool recently. He's available on a free transfer. Amin Gouiri, again, I've written about him, so I'd go check that out. There's also a good interview with Seko Fofana, the winner of the Get French Football News 100. So on French football side of things, that's everything. But yeah, keep an eye out for the series and go read the Get French Football News 100. It's a great publication from all of the writers involved. And, you know, just in general, if you want an insight about a different league, personally, league, and I love the Reds, but I watch a lot of French football alongside the Premier League. It is particular goals. For example, a relegation threatened side beat a team in the top 4 4-3 today. It's just that sort of league. Anything can happen. Unpredictability goals. So I definitely check out Ligue 1 if you're wanting to get into European football a bit more. But yeah, check out the GFN 100 and keep an eye out for the piece why the Reds should be shopping in Ligue 1.
Wonderful stuff. And yeah, those are great. Those are great recommendations there for players we could sign. We could sign Suleimana. Whoa, man, what a talent! Yeah, Ligue 1's brilliant. In fact, I might go and try and watch some now. PSG are playing against not Nice. They're playing against someone. Who are they playing?
Reims.
Sorry. Yeah, Reims. Okay, yeah, Reims
is a player to look out for.
Wait, who? Sorry.
Hugo Ekitike. He's been linked with Newcastle. He's a young 18-year-old striker. He's a special talent.
Magic. I shall go and stick that on. Thank you very much, Alan. Thank you so much for joining us as well. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And yeah, do you have a message for the listeners?
Yeah, thanks, Owen. I just do something. I don't have any media social channels or anything, but if I could do a personal wish happy birthday to my son Adam.
Happy birthday, Adam.
Yeah, 19 years ago he was born on my birthday, and still the best birthday present I ever had.
Fantastic.
Love you, son.
Oh, wonderful. Happy birthday. Wonderful stuff. Excellent stuff. It's my birthday on Tuesday in 2 days. So, I accept brownies. If you get in touch, coponpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you very much. coponpodcast@gmail.com. I can send you my address. You can send your brownies in the post if they've got, stupefying substances or not. As you like, but do please put a little note to say which stupefying substances you put in them. coponpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks very much, everybody. Take care. And speak to you soon. This race is not over.